Squads to look for Marcia. Details a half hour from now.
From CBS News headquarters in New York, this is the CBS Evening News with Roger Mudd substituting for vacationing Walter Cronkite. And in Washington, Eric Severai, Mariah McLaughlin, Bernard Kalb, George Herman, Bernard Goldberg in Miami, Terry Drinkwater in Los Angeles, Bruce Hall in Raleigh, North Carolina, and Bill Curtis in Rolling Meadows, Illinois.
Good evening. Both floor leaders of the United States Senate, Mansfield and Scott, said today the president of Cambodia and his followers should resign. Mansfield said if Lon Nol leaves, peace will be forthcoming. And Scott said Lon Nol's departure might avoid a bloodbath. Mariah McLaughlin reports from Washington.
Even if Lon Nol does step down, as the Senate leadership demanded, it seems doubtful that would be the beginning of some new compromise between the Congress and the White House over additional military aid to Cambodia. What Mansfield and Scott hope is that the end of the Lon Nol government will create a better atmosphere for negotiations, bring the war to an end, and possibly save thousands of refugees they say could be killed in a bloody slaughter. And many congressional leaders feel that exiled Cambodian Prince Norodom Sihanouk may be the key to the whole Cambodian situation, and he has refused to deal with the Lon Nol government. Though further military assistance seems out, there is growing support for food and some economic assistance to Cambodia, if some way can be worked out to assure that it will go directly to the people. Mariah McLaughlin, CBS News, Washington.
And House Democrats have scheduled a Wednesday morning caucus vote on a resolution opposing any further American military aid to either Cambodia or South Vietnam. In Cambodia today, the Khmer Rouge insurgents continued their shelling of Phnom Penh's airport, pouring more than 50 rounds into the area, which was the biggest barrage in a week. At least 5 persons were killed, 22 were wounded. 2 Cambodian commercial planes were damaged. Heavy fighting was reported today in South Vietnam's Central Highlands. North Vietnamese tanks and infantry overpowered government troops and took almost total control of the provincial capital of Bon Mai Thuit, trapping a U.S. embassy official and 8 American missionaries. If that city falls, it will be the most important provincial capital taken by the communists since the so-called ceasefire went into effect 2 years ago. 30 miles to the southwest, North Vietnamese forces overran another district town, the second one to fall in 3 days. Secretary of State Kissinger turned his attention today from peace in the Middle East to peace on Cyprus. He flew from Tel Aviv to Ankara for day-long talks with Turkish leaders on resolving the disputes that have divided Cyprus. Last week, he discussed the Cyprus situation with the Greek foreign minister.
This is taconite, a low-grade ore that's only about 20% iron. At one time, it was considered useless. But here at U.S. Steel's Mintac plant, we crush it, grind it into powder, and then magnetically separate it until it's 65% iron. It would take nature millions of years to concentrate taconite into high-grade iron ore. We're doing it in a matter of hours. That's productivity. At United States Steel, we're involved.
What's that, Jack? A second flavor of Digel, new lemon orange. Now there are 2 Digel flavors. At times, you know how tired you get from the taste of some antacids.
Oh, do I?
Not with Digel, in regular mint or new lemon orange. Both work like no plain antacid can.
How's that?
Digel is different. Relieves occasional heartburn, acid indigestion, gets rid of gas.
Gas?
Gas pressure, fullness. Digel, in regular mint
And new lemon orange. I'll try it.
2 former aides of the late Senator Robert Kennedy say he once talked of having uncovered in the late 1950s CIA involvement with a mafia figure in a plot to assassinate Cuban Premier Castro. In New York, one of the aides, Adam Walensky, made public his recollection.
He related that in the course of his investigations for the McClellan Committee, he had questioned a known organized crime figure. This individual stated to Mr. Kennedy words to the effect that "you can't touch me, I've got immunity." The senator asked from whom, and he was answered, the CIA. It developed, the senator did not say how, that agents of the CIA had purported to give this individual undefined assurances of protection from the law in exchange for his participation in an attempt to assassinate Premier Castro. Senator Kennedy said that he had immediately protested against this plot in the strongest terms, and that he had been assured by officials of the agency, both orally and in writing, that the entire operation would be stopped.
A new Harris survey shows that 65% of the country oppose the United States giving military aid to foreign governments, while 22% favor it. The survey also found that 53% oppose the U.S. selling arms to other nations, 35% favor it. We have a report now from Bernard Kalb on the burgeoning business of U.S. arms sales to foreign countries.
A new and growing controversy, the escalating foreign military sales of jets, tanks, warships, missiles, and other lethal instruments. Sales up from $922 million in fiscal 1970 to $3.9 billion in 73, $8.3 billion in 74, with sales to more than 70 countries, deliveries spread over a number of years. So far during this fiscal year, $5 billion, just about at last year's record-breaking pace. The merchandising of arms takes place at such international bazaars as the Paris Air Show, and where there might be a worldwide recession, not so in the selling of weapons. Business is booming, if that's the right word, and competition is intense. What's up for sale is not second-hand obsolescent equipment, but some of the most advanced items in the world's arsenal of weapons. One example, the Navy's F-14 Tomcat was being marketed even before it began operating off U.S. carriers a few months ago. $18 million apiece, 80 already ordered by Iran. The arms and backup support that the world ordered in the U.S. in fiscal 74 breaks down this way, not including hardware that the U.S. gives away. Africa, less than 1%. Latin America, about 2%. East Asia and the Pacific, about 4%. Europe, including Greece and Turkey, 13%. The Middle East, 26%. The Persian Gulf, 53%. Oil has lubricated the sale of hardware to Iran and Saudi Arabia in a bid to expand U.S. influence with these two biggest oil producers. Petrodollars pay the bill and help offset balance of payments problems. This corner of the world is now bristling with arms acquired in the wake of the Yom Kippur War of 1973 and the jump in oil prices that followed the Arab oil embargo. Military orders placed with the U.S. from fiscal 72 on show Iran with $8.2 billion, Israel $3.5 billion, Saudi Arabia $2 billion, with other countries increasing their orders, and with Egypt, Syria, and Iraq getting the bulk of their arms from the Soviet Union. Iran's growing U.S.-made arsenal will include 6 new destroyers like this one, ordered virtually off the drawing board. $110 million each, price no deterrent, deliveries toward the end of the decade. The Pentagon rejects the charge that arms are being sold indiscriminately, but the annual Defense Department report does say, admittedly, this increase in cash sales is rather startling.
We would prefer, of course, if the appetite for weapons of many of the states in that region were less than it is. But in terms of U.S. responsiveness and the desire to maintain U.S. influence with many of the parties in the region, we are prepared to sell arms to more than one of the nations out there.
The Pentagon says its objective is military balance, but critics contend there are larger issues.
I think it's very significant to keep in mind that there are many, many problems in terms of, in some cases, starvation, in other cases, just a very low standard of living, many people just subsisting. The monies that are being spent on arms could do a great deal to vastly increase the standard of living in some cases of at least a portion of the population.
In the U.S. government, we're not out peddling arms sales, peddling arms. We're not promoting arms sales. We're responding to requests from the government's concerned where we believe that it serves our national interest.
What do you say about the argument that if we don't sell it, the other side will?
Well, if we're going to follow, if every bad policy that somebody else adopts we have to follow, then there's no salvation for any of us. seems to me the United States is escalating the arms race worldwide, and we ought to be leading the fight to de-escalate the race rather than leading the fight to escalate it.
The fight to de-escalate has begun. Two bills recently introduced in the Senate could set guidelines and limitations on sales. The Pentagon opposes such curbs, but the controversy now surrounding this whole question means that a national debate on arms sales is in the making. Bernard Calv, CBS News, Capitol Hill.
Test your shopping skills. We're preparing a main dish of 1 pound of hamburger, golden macaroni, sizzling cheddar cheese sauce, and special seasonings. It tastes as delicious as it looks. Now, what do you think this costs per serving? $1.25, 75 cents, 57 cents, 35 cents. The answer is, with Hamburger Helper, less than 35 cents a serving, including the cost of the hamburger. Hamburger Helper, 9 delicious ways to fight inflation.
There are highways you'll never drive over, yet they carry traffic vital to our nation. The traffic, electrical energy. The highway, Reynolds aluminum. Aluminum cable, the most efficient, economical way to carry power. Not all these highways are visible. Some utility companies are laying special Reynolds cable underground to help preserve the beauty of our environment and still meet the demand for energy. Reynolds aluminum, conserving our resources and energy.
AFL-CIO President George Meany told a housing conference in Washington today that people soon will be losing their homes because of the economy. George Herman reports.
Once again, Meany reasserted his contention that federal anti-inflation policies caused the current sharp drop in housing production, bringing on something worse than just another recession.
America is in a depression. When the unemployment rate is 8.2%, representing nearly 7.5 million people without jobs, it is time this administration stopped kidding itself and trying to kid the American people.
And as a sign of trouble still to come, Meany warned of a possible avalanche of mortgage foreclosures this spring.
In a month or two, tens of thousands of unemployed will stop receiving supplementary unemployment benefits provided under union contracts because the funds will have been exhausted. Later in the year, even larger numbers will have exhausted their unemployment insurance benefits. Mortgage loan defaults might then become too voluminous for significant lender forbearance.
To avert this avalanche of foreclosures and falling property values, Meany asked for legislation to help unemployed homeowners and for the reinstitution of the Depression-era's Homeowners Loan Corporation to buy up defaulted mortgages and work things out with the homeowners. George Herman, CBS News, Washington.
Mortgage foreclosures are just part of the problems facing the nation's newest member of the cabinet, Carla Hills, who took oath of office today as the Secretary of Housing and Urban Development. The 41-year-old Mrs. Hills, a California lawyer and mother of 4, thus became the 3rd woman in history to serve in the cabinet. The 2 others were Frances Perkins, Labor Secretary under Roosevelt, and Ovida Kolpabi, HEW Secretary under Eisenhower. The current HEW Secretary, Caspar Weinberger, today told the Congress the administration is opposed to providing health benefits through the unemployment insurance program. He said that such a plan would cost more than $3 billion if the jobless rate reaches 10%. It's now 8.2%. Weinberger said the program also would create bureaucratic chaos and would be unfair to working taxpayers. Calls for health insurance for the unemployed have come from labor unions, health insurers, and hospitals. Bernard Goldberg reports on the problem from Miami.
Jackson Memorial Hospital, county-operated, traditionally the place where low-income people come for relatively inexpensive care. But now, Jackson is treating more and more middle-income people, people who lost their jobs and their company or union-sponsored health insurance.
We have gotten laborers, plumbers, carpenters, tile setters, factory workers, laundry workers, seamstress, waitresses, this type of person that before never came to this hospital and had no need to come, but due to their lack of work and they have been laid off and no insurance, they come and they seek medical care here when they need it.
Ronald Nicholas, an unemployed iron worker. He lost his job and his health insurance last July and says he can't afford a new policy. Now his children are suffering with respiratory ailments. Today he took them to the county hospital.
I do feel like I'm imposing on the county, and besides, I pay my taxes, and I really don't like someone else coming down and getting something for nothing, is the way I feel. And now I've come down, and I'm more or less in the same situation, and I know how a lot of other people must feel, being that they're out of work. I've got to come down here and more or less feel like I'm on welfare. And it makes me a lesser man, is the way I feel.
Carrie Brown, a widow and diabetic. She worked in a furniture factory until last November when she lost her job to the recession. Today, she was applying for free hospital benefits.
I lost the health insurance when I lost my job in the furniture factory because I didn't have money to keep it up. I didn't have any savings to keep it up, so that's the reason why I lost it.
So the recession has even rippled into hospital sick rooms, and administrators of already overcrowded county hospitals like Jackson are worried that if the recession deepens, if unemployment goes up, they'll have more patients than they can adequately care for. Bernard Goldberg, CBS News, Miami.
On the West Coast, a job relief program from the past is being revived to help struggling members of the show business community. Terry Drinkwater reports from Los Angeles.
If thou beest slain and with no stroke of mine, my wife and children's ghosts will haunt this day.
Remember the Federal Theater Project of the 1930s? The government hiring 13,000 unemployed actors, singers, dancers, putting them to work producing shows, productions which help the audiences to be entertained, to forget for an hour or so during that depression. Well, the federal government is doing the same thing again. Patsy Ron, unemployed and rehearsing for tryouts for a job.
The money comes from Washington. The city is running the program. With unemployment in Hollywood as high as almost everywhere else in the country, all kinds of show people are preparing for the auditions during the next 2 weeks. The pay of $625 a month has many struggling, jobless performers rehearsing just as hard as they would for a major movie role.
High five, high five, I'm a big boy now, high five. The world's my stage, and I say it with all sincerity.
And when I ope my lips, let no dog bark. By Antonio, I do know of those that therefore only are reputed wise for saying nothing.
30 actors have applied for each job so far available. The first step will be hiring the initial 75. More, many more, as the anticipated additional funding comes from Washington. The 1930s Federal Theater, in its day, came under attack as too political. Critics said some of its productions were communist-inspired and that the government was wasting money on actors. From City Hall and from Washington, this time there are strict orders: don't produce political plays. And on the merits of spending public funds, we talked with the project's director, Clara Louvier.
In terms of using tax money as salaries for actors, for too long we've ignored the fact that there are artists in this community and an industry in this community, and we don't always have to hire people just to rake leaves.
In the parks and in the theaters, when the actors come on stage, the public, with so little money to spend on entertainment these days, will benefit too, because all of the performances will be free. Terry Drinkwater, CBS News, Los Angeles.
The Dow Jones Industrials gained more than 6 points on the New York Stock Exchange today. The volume was 25,900,000 shares. The average price per share went up 21 cents on the New York Exchange, 6 cents on the American.
Ready, set, go. You've seen commercials where liquid or crystal drain openers tell you how fast they are. Well, I can beat them both with amazing drain power. Why don't I hurry? No need to. 1 second is all it takes. Watch. Drain power, incredibly fast, and it works without lye or acid. Get amazing drain power, the 1 second drain opener.
Nothing but gutter balls today. It's nagging backache. Ruined my sleep, too.
Listen, honey, you ought to try my Doan's pills. They sure help me.
When nagging backache due to overexertion or everyday stress and strain comes on, Doan's pain-relieving action often brings temporary relief and lets you get a good night's sleep.
Feeling lots better tonight, thanks to Doan.
Try Doan's pills for relief of nagging backache.
Judge John Sirica, acting at the request of the prosecution, today dismissed all Watergate cover-up charges against former White House aide Gordon Strachan. The dismissal resulted from the immunity given Strachan to testify at the Senate Watergate hearing. There have been no executions in the United States since the Supreme Court ruled in 1972 against death penalty laws. But since then, 31 states and Congress have enacted new capital punishment statutes, and the Supreme Court now is weighing a new ruling on the question. Meantime, the death rows at state prisons are filling up. Just a year ago, North Carolina's prison had 31 awaiting execution, the most of any state. Now, as Bruce Hall found in this follow-up report, the backlog is still building.
This is death row in North Carolina's Central Prison. 66 people are waiting here to die in the gas chamber. All are appealing their convictions. And another 15 prisoners are in local jails waiting for new trials. Death row is jammed beyond capacity. The reason for the overcrowding is that North Carolina rewrote its law 2 years ago so that anyone convicted of first-degree murder, rape, arson, or first-degree burglary automatically receives the death penalty. Officials say it will probably be another 3 years before appeals start running out, and by that time there may be 200 people under the death sentence in North Carolina alone. Bruce Hall, CBS News, Raleigh, North Carolina.
A former CIA employee who has a new book out about the assassination of President Kennedy says his investigation indicates there was a conspiracy and that Congress should investigate it. More on this in Eric Severide's commentary.
The present is hard enough to understand, so it seems a bit unfair to the nervous system to be told that we've been confused about practically everything in the past as well. For a long time, an endless series of books, articles, and news stories has been informing us that Stalin was really a peacemaker at heart, and that the Cold War was invented and sustained by the United States. That Oswald didn't kill John Kennedy, that the Warren Commission covered up a high-level conspiracy in that matter, that Sirhan didn't kill Robert Kennedy, that the CIA has been a massive threat to the civil liberties of innocent Americans, that the agency assassinated some foreign politicians and plotted to assassinate others, including Castro, that one in a deal with the mafia. Every cycle of great or violent events is followed by a cycle of revisionist history, and revisionist history in its turn is revised. The press is often called the recorder of the first draft of history. It also records the second, third, and fourth drafts. It is, thank heaven, a self-correcting process. So these stories must not only be followed closely, but continuously. People take naturally to the conspiracy theory to explain shocking events. They always have. They are sometimes right, but in this country, rarely. Invariably, groups and individuals spring up who make their living, psychic or material, trying to prove that historical or official findings on great events are wrong. Usually their so-called evidence is of a negative nature. The court or the investigators or the commissioners did not ask this question of that witness or look hard enough at that phenomenon or this one. In other words, the investigation was incomplete. All investigations are incomplete in that sense. They have to stop somewhere. And the same will be true of the current committees and commissions looking into CIA and FBI. Doubt-raising is easy work. There's only one rule of thumb for most of us: to accept the formal findings, whether in the Hiss case, the Oswald case, or the Sirhan case, until positive evidence to the contrary is produced. The latest claim today that electronic analysis of Oswald's remarks on tape and that of some Dallas policeman throws serious doubt on his guilt is not positive evidence. It is the inference of some individuals. The James Earl Ray case is different because there has been no real trial or investigation, thorough and open. Meanwhile, ironies develop, as with the CIA and its files with thousands of citizens' names. It is a bit like the famous and absurd enemies list kept by the Nixon White House. It becomes not a stigma and menace to have one's name in these files, but almost an honor. At the least, a nothing. There is safety in numbers, and the greater the numbers, the greater the safety.
When I was little, I learned my ABCs so I could spell better. Now I remember my ABCs so I can cook better. ABC stands for accent before cooking. Because accent flavor enhancer unlocks the good, natural flavor trapped in foods. And for less than 3 cents per pound of meat. Before you cook, remember your ABCs. Accent flavor enhancer before cooking. It's a lesson in flavor.
How do you get shirts so clean, Mr. Lee?
Ancient Chinese secret.
My husband, some hotshot. Here's his ancient Chinese secret, Calgon. Calgon's 2 water softeners soften wash water so detergents clean better. In hardest water, Calgon helps detergents get laundry up to 30% cleaner. We need more Calgon. Ancient Chinese secret, huh?
Calgon helps detergents get laundry up to 30% cleaner.
In 1967, when Chicago unveiled its first Picasso, the sculpture was the target of a lot of heated debate. Now another Picasso has come to the Chicago area, and Bill Curtis of WBBM-TV reports on its reception.
The controversy has cooled around Chicago's first Picasso. 7 years after people were trying to figure out what it was, taxi drivers now calmly describe that woman to their fares. It was the beginning of an age of monumental public art for Chicago. A Chagall mosaic beneath a bank building, a Calder in a federal building square. But today's debut of the latest edition was something less than overwhelming. Sitting there amid unfinished corporate buildings in a Chicago suburb, Picasso's bather, almost shivering in the 30-degree cold. There was a time when the thought of a 26-foot-high outdoor nude would have inspired gasps throughout the Midwest. But so far, the bather has brought only giggles from a few school children. One said, "At least you can tell what it is." It has taken 5 months to sandblast the concrete away and etch in every little Picasso squiggle, front and back. As for community critics, some may object to its being topless, but none can deny the bather brings a new dimension to the term bottomless. Bill Curtis for CBS News, Rolling Meadows, Illinois.
Representative Andy Jacobs of Indiana used to keep a Great Dane named C5 in his Capitol Hill office, but the dog had to be sent back to Indiana after it bit Representative Jim Symington on the hand while Mr. Symington was running down a hallway. Today, Jacobs had a welcome back to Washington party for the big dog, which behaved perfectly until Symington showed up. No sooner was Symington in the room trying to feed the dog a piece of cheese, but C5 once again went for Symington's hand. As Jacobs was applying the bandage, Symington suggested that dogs should see a shrink. That's the news this Monday night. I'm Roger Mudd, CBS News. Good night.
There is a car, a very special car, that proved itself long before you touched its wheel. The Mercedes-Benz, engineered like no other car in the world.
I love last-minute details. And champagne with creamed spinach.
Enjoying your first business trip, Mr. Smedley?
Time for the old 1-2.
For aches and pains with upset stomach, take Alka-Seltzer. It gives the old 1-2, the old 1-2.
He had the Alka-Seltzer in the briefcase.
For acid indigestion alone, try Alka-Seltzer Gold without aspirin.
From CBS News headquarters in New York, this has been the CBS Evening News with Roger Mudd substituting for Walter Cronkite. For the latest news early, watch the CBS Morning News with Hughes Rudd. Has romance gone out of the Finley marriage? A rustic retreat may hold the answer as the two try to rekindle that old passion. Maude, tonight at 9, 8 Central on CBS.
WLAC-TV, Nashville.
Good evening, everybody. I'm Chris Clark, and in the news tonight, Governor Ray Blanton says it will be all or nothing at all in efforts to repeal the state's price-fixing or fair trade laws. Martha Mitchell and Frank Mankiewicz talk about politics in 2 separate Tennessee appearances. We'll have details later. Youth guidance officers have formed several special teams now to search for Marshall Trimble, and health inspectors look into alleged unsanitary conditions at the old Union stockyards in Nashville. Ron Kaiser is out with the weather.